there don't seem to be a short-term, I wouldn't say vision, but at least a tangible plan of how we're going to overcome this challenge if we are to push forward, especially with the number of projects and the the growth that we're having in that particular industry right now. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any ideas of how far are we from finding a solution for this? And what is the short-term plan to overcome this challenge?
Unfortunately, I don't think there's a short-term plan. It's got to be a little bit long-term. We thankfully certain areas it's improving, but there is it's a real problem. One of the reasons I'm going to tell you is, as students, we don't have a good image, or we don't have a good story to tell to convince high school students or even middle school students to think about engineering in the field, or in the machine shop, or out of the office, because it's difficult to compete with people who can go to work in office, have a game theory, and be provided all these benefits like Google, and with food and everything being. I mean, it's so enamored, it's so exciting for them to look at that. And
what kept the engineering industry? Because I'm a living example of a similar path that you're just laying out over here. I graduated in electrical engineer, and I pursued a master's degree in electrical engineering. And then the moment I graduated, I didn't go and work in electrical engineering. I actually immediately switched to information technology, and I started as a tech support in IT. And then a few years later, I took a commercial role, and it's been in a commercial role for the past 20 plus years. And that's the, this kind of points out the reason why a lot of people like me graduate holding a master's in engineering, but never practice engineering, because I felt at certain point in time is that the road to, if I'm to kind of grow and become more established, is just too slow of a road. There's not enough skin in the game. There's not enough perks. There's just not enough incentives. It's just, you're probably sitting somewhere in a room, closed door, behind closed doors. You don't meet enough people. You don't get exposure as much as you need. The benefits are always lagging behind what sales make, or marketing, or other divisions or functions in different industries. And obviously you jump boat, right? What kept the engineering industry from picking up, and competing with these other industries like the information technology?
Therein lies the issue. That's why I was talking about qualification-based selection. Inherently, what has happened is, as a result of it, the financial remuneration and other options are limited, because the engineering companies cannot afford to compete with the IT industry, for example, or the medical industry, healthcare industry. So that causes an issue. Therefore, people are not enamored, because they see a long road to hoe to achieve some satisfaction.
But why can't we compete? Why can't the engineering industry compete? I mean, we're not making enough margins on the projects. There's just not enough projects.
That's the whole thing. And you know what? Even now, I've been in the industry for many years. The increase in our prices, our rates are much slower than the inflation rate. And it's because there is, we don't tend to improve as a group. We don't tend to, I hate to say this. In my opinion, it is It's essentially we don't stand on on the soapbox and say, hey, we need to be compensated appropriately. I don't know where and when the engineering industry went into being paid by the hour, as opposed to being paid by the value we provide.
This is disastrous, by the way. The question is, are the engineering companies considered the weakest link in the ecosystem today of development and build and project?
Absolutely.
They are.
Yep, they are.
And it's becoming more of a commodity practice. You just pay them by the hour, you get paid from them, you move on.
Yep.
Is there anything that could be done to change this perception?
I really think we should. And in fact, what we have practiced in our company is we have chosen to work with people who work with us, which are fair in what they pay us. We will not, we don't make a compromise in terms of our rates and or what we want to be paid for.
Who decides? Who's causing this situation? Is it primarily the developers who are trying to maximize their profits? Because you have the public and the private sector. I mean, obviously the public sector is very competitive. You're dealing with the government, with government entities and the likes. So probably there's just not much there to go and fight for. But then the private sector is booming, whether the commercial or residential developments or real estate or you name it. I mean, these markets continue to score record high profits, decade after decade. So, and at the same time, engineering is at the center of that particular practice, but it's continued to shrink and make less of less and less chunk of the cake or piece of the cheese.
Right, correct.
Is there any legislation?
Well, partially, we have to blame ourselves. We don't stand up and say, enough, we want to be paid appropriately. We want to move towards a value-based fees. We still continue to go back into the unit rates based companies. I don't have a solution. All I can tell you is that we're trying our own best in our own company.
Shouldn't the organizations or syndicates that we have, ACEC is just one example of, be actually pushing and putting this as a top priority on their agendas? And
absolutely. QBS. In fact, Ohio passed the law. We are we will be being enforcing it, at least in the public sector. In the private sector, slowly we have to push it. So we have to have, but unfortunately, not every engineering company is a member of the organization. So non-member organizations still, based upon, and I'm not faulting them, it's just that we just have to, us engineers have to start respecting ourselves. If I
was just about to say the same. Pay more respect to ourselves and our degrees and our,
exactly,
state, because I don't think we're holding that as high as we should. And honestly, I think we're not doing enough on an organizational level. I think there need to be more serious talks and more syndicates to go there and just educate more these non-member organizations of the importance of having one solid word in union rather than.
There's one thing I want to tell you. We engineers are the worst business people I've ever known.
Tell me about it.
The reason, why do I say that? We provide engineering services. We invoice after the project is complete.
Correct.
Then we wait 90 days before we ask for that money. So you're talking almost close to 6 months, we're financing our clients.
Rich clients, cash-rich clients.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is so pathetic, honestly.
I agree. Does it have to be with the leadership? Let me rephrase this question. Do you think engineering companies with a business-minded leader have better chances of succeeding and growing and being more profitable than engineering background leaders?
I think so. Yes, very much so. And I wouldn't limit it to only engineering companies. I'd limit it also, I'll include architects. They're just as bad in terms of business.
They're more driven by their passion to produce a design that really gets
yes,
recognized.
In fact, we jump, engineers and architects, we jump to solve the problem. We don't push back and want to be a business person.
We don't market our work enough.
That's another thing. We all believe that our work should be
speak for itself.
Yeah. So the people should, we stand on our corner and expect people to come and knock on our door. Those days are gone.
Yeah. I agree with you. You see major achievements.
I'm ranting a little, but I'm passionate about it.
Me, myself as well. And I always look back and ask myself if I did the right decision in my career. And I love engineering. I'm passionate about it. You know, I always like to engage. But then it's exactly the same, because when I jumped deck, when I changed to the business role, I mean, one of my friends actually helped me take that decision, because there was a business role opening in the company I used to work for. And the guy came and he said, listen, why would you consider that? It's a business development manager, and you could really do good in that role. And I was like, no, I want to continue to be an engineer. I want to sit in my room, do my things. You know, I'm an engineer. You know, I studied a lot. I'm an engineer. I'm super smart. I don't want to take that role. And then he said, okay, but then, you know, you'll learn a lot more and you'll grow much faster. And it really took a lot of energy for me to cross, and it took a lot of thinking, because it kind of helped. It kind of scratched my pride. It's like, I'm an engineer. What? Go do business development? Like, that's not something. But then right now, after 15, 20 years in a commercial role, it often comes where I have debate or arguments with my engineering team about whether we should pursue a certain strategy or pursue a certain industry or a certain deal, because engineers tend to not zoom out, forget to zoom out and see the bigger picture of where are we going to be in 3, 4, 5 years, how strategic this would be for us as a company to grow, to establish, to get better exposure, versus no, this is the right thing to do. We only do the right thing here. Yes, it's an unfortunate reality. So
you're absolutely correct. My God, yes, you're right. And in fact, one of the things which we have done for the last few years is to have what is called as the doer-seller classes. We want the engineers to stop being such introverts that they look at their own shoe while speaking to somebody else.
Correct. Very, very correct. It's a very correct statement here, yeah. And how are you coming across this? You're just teaching them.
We are taking people and teaching them how to be a seller as well as a doer.
100%.
Teaching them how to evaluate potential clients, how to establish relationships, how to get to work and ask for the work and follow through. And one of the famous things which I taught them is, hey, like McDonald's, ask, do you want fries with that?
Exactly. It doesn't hurt doing a little bit of sales every now and then.
Exactly.
A little bit of promotion. Talk about your work. People are not gonna just sit back and figure out, reverse engineer in their minds how much work and effort and how ingenious your design was. You gotta tell them. There's no shame in talking to them about it.
Toot your own horn. Yes, correct. You're right.
Yeah, that's it's typical. It's always the case. It's always the case. It's typical, and just it's an engineering mentality kind of thing. And I agree with you. We actually push a lot of communication courses to our engineers.
Oh, good.
We found ourselves occasionally having to jump on a call and push down communication training to them, how to be better communicators to customers when on calls, when interacting with customers. Show them what you're doing, expose your work, let the world knows how fantastic and how smart this work is, rather than just like drop it and leave. No.
Exactly. Yeah. And at least communicate what you've done. Just explain it to the person. That itself is a good thing you can do, rather than just dropping the solution off and walk away. Anyway.
A great example is Tesla, by the way. I think what Tesla had, on top of what other electric or EV companies had, was the fact that they knew how to promote their product. They had a fantastic car, a great platform, a sustainable one, very solid from an engineering standpoint. It's an engineering masterpiece. And they were not ashamed of going on stage and demonstrating it with all the hoops and gymnastics they do on stage every time they have a new product, and they introduce it to the world as an engineering masterpiece, rather than just like another car or another brand out in the market that produces EV.
Yeah, you're right. Or you have to be Bill Gates as opposed to Steve.
100%. 100%. I agree. Early days of Steve Jobs. Fully agreed. So you're still the current president of CTL Engineering. Talk to us about CTL. Your current projects, your biggest projects, how happy you are with the company. Where do you see it going from here? How big is it?
We do work in many parts of the country as well as the other countries, but our total sales is approximately 50 million plus. We can continue to grow. Large project wise, about 40% of our work is in the transportation sector. And we go after, we do not only the pre-design related engineering like environmental and the geotechnical engineering services, along with the construction administration and construction inspection services during construction. Our largest projects right now are a project in Kentucky for a battery plant in Kentucky.
Interesting.
By the fact, the reason I'm being hesitant is we have signed non-disclosure agreements with them. They didn't want us to tell people about the client name. And we are also working on the largest investment in chip-related factories in Ohio. Those are the two large ones. And we are working on fairly significant transportation-related work, including Indiana Airport, right from its inception to completion. And we work in the highways, in bridges, etc. And because of the Infrastructure Act, there's a lot of work in almost all the states.
And the scarcity of a lot of work and projects and scarcity of skill set, which is
that's one thing we have changed over the last few years. Is we partner with our competitors just as much as we compete with them. We establish relationships with. There are good companies we compete, but by the same token we partner. And we have an agreement that we don't poach employees between us.
Has it been helpful? Did it pay off?
Very helpful, very helpful.